Have you ever been afraid to speak your own name? For 24 years, I hid my real name, Jung Mi-ja. Every time I heard it, the memories hurt too much, so I abandoned it. I became Park Sun-hee instead, betrayed by the man I loved most, shunned by society, forced to give away a child I never even got to hold. To survive that era, I had to erase my past. But now I understand. I didn't abandon my name. I embarked on a long journey to find my true self. This is the story of a woman born in a poor farming village in Gimja, North Jeolla Province, in 1965, who survived on the cold streets of Seoul and finally reclaimed her name. At 16, I boarded a train to Seoul. Father was bedridden with tuberculosis. Mother worked as a housemaid for other families, barely scraping by. My older brother had been drafted. I was the family's only hope. I went to Seoul believing what a neighbor told me. You can make money there. I still remember the overwhelming feeling when I stepped off at Seoul Station. Towering buildings, cars racing at terrifying speeds, countless strangers brushing past me. I was just a country girl with a small bundle. I found work at a garment factory near Cheonggyecheon Stream. 12 hours a day at this sewing machine. My fingers were always covered in bandages from needle pricks. My back never straightened, but I could endure it. The thought of sending money home to my parents made me happy. I met him at a church near the factory. Sun-woo. He was the son of a boarding house owner, a college student. I was sitting alone in the church courtyard, eating my lunchbox, when he approached me and asked if he could join me. That's how it began. Sun-woo didn't mock me for being a country girl. Instead, he taught me proper Seoul speech, showed me how to take thus, even walked me to the factory. He told me I was admirable for working so hard, that he respected me. Those words shook my heart. No one had ever said they respected me. I was just a poor farmer's daughter, but he treated me like a person. After about 3 months, Sun-woo gave me a letter. It said he liked me. I gave him my heart too, or perhaps I already had. We met in secret. We walked the slopes of Namsan Mountain. We drank tea at a small cafe in the back alleys of Myeongdong. Sun-woo promised me a future. He said when he graduated, he'd get a job and find us a place to live together. He asked if I would spend my life with him. I believed him. I believed his words, his eyes, his promises. All of it. In the summer of 1967, everything collapsed. Sun-woo said we needed our own space and took me away from the boarding house. A small room he'd found. A single room at the top of a hillside neighborhood in Sillimdong. It was humble, but I was happy. I thought we finally had our own home. But happiness lasted less than 2 months. One day, I came home from work to find the room empty. Sun-woo's belongings, his traces, all gone. Just an envelope in the middle of the room. Inside were 2 10,000 won bills and a brief note. Sorry, I can't take responsibility. That was all. I searched for him frantically. I went to the boarding house. The landlady locked the door and wouldn't open it. I shouted through the door gap, begging to know where Sun-woo had gone. She said she didn't know anyone by that name and told me never to come back. I waited at his university gate, waited for 3 days, but he never appeared. I learned later that Sun-woo had already filed for leave and gone down to Busan. Then I realized I was pregnant. I had no choice but to quit the factory. I couldn't hide my growing belly. The landlord told me to leave immediately. I had nowhere to go. I couldn't return home either. My parents wouldn't accept a daughter who'd become an unwed mother. No, it wasn't their fault. That was just the era we lived in. Having a child without marriage brought shame to the family, disgrace to the village. I rented a room in a shanty house near Cheonggyecheon Stream. Manual labor, errands. I took any work I could find, even with my swollen belly. I couldn't stop working. I had to survive. One night, I collapsed from the pain. A neighbor found me and took me to a small temple nearby. A monk there helped me. The monk told me to have the baby first, and we'd think about what came next after that. The baby was born on a cold dawn in February 1968. A boy, small and red-faced. I'll never forget the warmth of holding him for the first time. But I couldn't even give him a name. I couldn't register his birth either. How could I raise this child alone? To work, one needed somewhere to leave him. But employers wouldn't hire unwed mothers. No boarding house or room would accept me with a baby. I agonized for 10 days. I wandered the streets holding him, crying. Then I made a decision. To save him, I had to let him go. I took him to an orphanage the monk had told me about. A small facility near Dongdaemun Gate. The mother superior said the child would be adopted by a good family, that I was making the right choice for him. When I handed him over, my heart felt torn apart. The baby didn't even cry. He just looked at me with dark eyes. I whispered that I was sorry. So sorry. Those were the last words I said to him. As I left the orphanage, my legs gave out and I collapsed. I cried and cried, but the tears wouldn't stop. People passing by stared at me, but I didn't care. After that day, I circled the orphanage many times. I wanted to see his face just once more. Every time I heard a baby crying beyond the wall, my heart broke. But when I went back about a month later, the mother superior told me the child had been adopted by a good family. She said it was fortunate. I asked where he'd gone. She said she couldn't tell me. For my sake and the child's sake, that was the end. My child had left me, and I could never know where or how he lived. And I made a decision. I could no longer live as Jung Mi-ja. Changing my name was easier than I thought. Back then, many people's official records weren't properly maintained. I went to an office near Jung Mi-ja and paid to have new identification papers made. Park Sun-hee? A name with no parents, no past. As Park Sun-hee, I started working again. I sold clothes at market stalls in Namdaemun. I washed dishes at restaurants. I cleaned motels. I just wanted to die. If I stopped working, my thoughts would overwhelm me and I'd go mad. Every night I dreamed of my child. In my dreams, he was growing up, having his first birthday party, going to kindergarten, entering elementary school. I wanted to be his mother, even if only in dreams. But reality was cold. In 1970, when I was 21, I saw Sunwoo by chance on a Myeongdong street. He wore a suit and walked arm in arm with a pretty woman. I couldn't breathe. I wanted to run up and scream at him, ask if he knew what he'd done to me. But I couldn't. After they passed, I went into an alley and vomited. More than anger, I felt emptiness. I still carried that wound, but he was living happily as if nothing had happened. For a while, I stayed locked in my room. No energy to go out and work. No strength to eat. I just wanted to die. That's when Kyung-suk, a woman who worked at the same motel, shook me awake. She told me to snap out of it, that I'd actually die if I kept living like this. Having his first birthday party, going to kindergarten, entering elementary school. I wanted to be his mother, even if only in dreams. She'd fled from an abusive husband and was now raising a child alone. She told me that for women like us, if we fall, it's over. Nobody will pick us up. So we have to survive, no matter what. Those words lifted me back up. She was right. I had to live. Maybe someday I could see my child again. When I turned 30, I took over a small restaurant, a shabby place in a Jongno back alley. But it was the first thing I'd ever owned. I worked from dawn to dusk. Customers said they could feel the care in the food. Care, that was all I could give. The love I couldn't give my child, I poured into my cooking. The restaurant gradually found its footing. I gained regular customers. Word spread. I saved money too, for the day I might search for my child. After turning 40, I began seriously searching for my child. I went back to that orphanage, but the mother superior had passed away, and the new director didn't know me. Looked through records. It was hopeless. There were no clues. But among the 1968 adoption files, there were so many children, and fire had destroyed some of the records from that period. For the day I might search for my child, but I didn't give up. I went to adoption agencies looking for records of baby boys born in February 1968. There were 23 cases, but not one listed the birth mother's name as Jung Mi-ja. Because I hadn't given my name when I left him, I searched for years. Sometimes hope seemed to appear, only to lead to a dead end. In 1995, I turned 50. I closed the restaurant and started volunteering at the district office. I worked at a free meal service for the elderly. I wanted to give others the love I hadn't received, the love I couldn't give. Through volunteer work, I met many elderly people. I listened to their stories, stories of families lost in war, separated by poverty, reunited against all odds. One grandmother told me that someday we'd find each other, that blood ties are connections made by heaven. I wanted to believe her. And in 2018, a miracle happened. A social worker from the district office found me. She asked if my real name was Jung Mi-ja. My heart stopped. She said someone wanted to meet me. A few days later, I sat in a district office counseling room. The door opened and a man walked in. A man in his 50s, wearing a suit and glasses, dignified looking. He looked at me and tears fell. He asked if I was his mother. I couldn't speak. Tears just streamed down. He was living under the name Kim Junho. He'd been adopted by a professor's family in Seoul and now worked as a middle school teacher. Junho said he was always grateful to his adoptive parents. They were good people who raised him like their own child. But he'd always wondered, what was his birth mother like? Why did she give him away? Junho had started searching for his birth mother years ago. With help from adoption agencies, he'd gathered clues. Recently, through a genetic database, he'd found traces of me. When I'd done a health screening during volunteer work about 10 years earlier, a blood sample had been kept. Finally, I asked, why did he want to find me? Junho smiled. He said he didn't come to blame me. He came to thank me. I asked what there was to thank for giving birth to him, for keeping him alive. He could imagine how hard it must have been for me, that I gave birth to him alone in that era and still didn't abandon him but took him somewhere safe. I couldn't hold back anymore. Everything I'd held in for 50 years collapsed. I cried that I was sorry, so sorry, that his mother couldn't protect him. Junho embraced me. For the first time, my son held me. He said it was okay now, that we'd found each other again. We cried like that for a long time. Junho and I began meeting regularly. At first, we were cautious, awkward with each other, unsure what to say. 50 years of absence couldn't be filled easily. But Junho was patient. No, he wasn't a child anymore. He was a grown man. He approached me slowly. He shared his stories and asked about mine. He asked how I'd lived, how I'd survived after giving him away. For the first time, I told someone my whole life story. My time as Jung Mi-ja, my years as Park Sun-hee, the days I'd endured one by one. Junho listened quietly. He wiped tears and nodded. Then he asked if he could call me mother now. I said yes. Yes. Then Junho asked if I'd like to meet his family. He had a wife and a high school daughter. Junho had already told them about me. They all wanted to meet me. The first meeting was at Junho's house. With trembling heart, I rang the doorbell. The door opened, and a high school girl greeted me with a bright smile. She said she was Jiwoo, that grandmother had come. She hugged me. Without hesitation, she embraced a grandmother she just met. Junho's wife welcomed me warmly, too. She said Junho had told her a lot about me. We ate dinner and talked. Ordinary family conversations. School, work, plans. It felt surreal that I was part of that normalcy. On the way home, I cried on the bus, but this time they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of gratitude. About a year after meeting Junho, I received an unexpected call. Junho cautiously asked if I could tell him about his father. I'd never properly talked about Sunwoo. It hurt too much, but Junho had a right to know about his roots. I told him everything, how we met, how we loved, how I was betrayed. Junho listened quietly and asked if I resented that man. I said at first I did. I cursed him every night, but now I felt sorry for him. He was a man who lacked the courage to love or to take responsibility. A few days later, Junho said something startling. He'd found him. My heart sank. He'd searched online. It's easy to find people now, he said. He was living in Busan. Sunwoo. He'd become a 74-year-old man. He'd tried business and failed. Now he lived alone, without children. Junho asked if I wanted to meet him. I hesitated. I was afraid to see him again after 50 years. But Junho said if I wanted to truly reclaim my name, I needed to face my past, not run from it. In autumn 2020, I boarded a train to Busan. Junho came with me. A shabby villa, 3rd floor. That's where Sunwoo lived. The door opened. A wrinkled face, graying hair, a bent back. Nothing remained of his former self. Sunwoo froze when he saw me. He spoke my name. I said it had been a long time. We sat in his cramped room. After a long silence, Sunwoo said he was sorry. He'd been sorry his whole life. I asked if that was all. Sunwoo said he had no excuses. He'd been a coward. His family had arranged an engagement, and he couldn't refuse. He loved me but lacked the courage to take responsibility. Sunwoo kept talking. The marriage wasn't happy. His wife died young. He'd grown old without children. He thought of me every night. He wasn't asking for forgiveness. He had no right to. He just hoped I'd lived well. I looked at Junho beside me. My son who'd grown up well. Then I told Sunwoo I had lived well. It was hard, but I endured, and now I was happy. He asked what happened to our child. I pointed to Junho. He's here, our son. Sunwoo looked at Junho with shocked eyes. Junho said calmly that this was their first meeting, but he wasn't Sunwoo's son. He was the son of the parents who raised him, and my son. Junho said he didn't resent Sunwoo, but he would remember my suffering, and he would never repeat this same mistake. We parted that way. It was a permanent farewell. On the train, Jun-ho held my hand. He said it was really over now. The past was finished. In 2021, I turned 74. Jun-ho suggested I try YouTube, share my story. Many people have lived through hardships like mine, he said, especially women of my generation. Hearing my story would comfort them. At first, I thought it was ridiculous. How could I share my shameful past with the world? But Jun-ho said it wasn't shameful. It was a record of survival. I could be proud. My granddaughter Ji-woo chimed in. She said senior YouTubers were really popular these days. My story was more moving than any movie. After some thought, I started a channel called Mi-ja's Story. The first video's title was, After That Day, I Abandoned My Name, a 74-year-old woman's confession. I trembled when I sat before the camera, but once I started talking, the words flowed. I told my life, my pain, my survival, my hope. I said my name was Jung Mi-ja, that I'd hidden this name for 24 years. But now I could say it proudly. I had survived. The video reached more people than I'd expected. Comments poured in. Stories of mothers who'd gone through similar experiences. Stories of unwed mothers still searching for children given up 30 years ago. Messages saying I was truly strong, that they respected me. Hundreds, thousands of comments. Many people empathized with my story, found comfort, gained courage. I kept uploading videos, restaurant stories, volunteer stories, the story of reuniting with my son. And I said that if asked whether my life was unhappy, I'd say no. It was hard, but not unhappy, because I never gave up. I survived. One day, Jun-ho asked if I'd consider legally changing my name back from Park Sun-hee to Jung Mi-ja, to live with my real name, to stop hiding. I thought about it. I'd lived as Park Sun-hee for 50 years. Change it now? But I understood. Jung Mi-ja wasn't a shameful name. Jung Mi-ja was the name of a woman who survived. In 2023, I became Jung Mi-ja again. When I received my new ID card, I cried. After 55 years, I'd reclaimed my real name. Now I'll live as 74-year-old Jung Mi-ja. I see Jun-ho's family often. My granddaughter Ji-woo is in college now and calls me grandmother. We eat together on holidays, cut birthday cakes, share ordinary family life. I'm still doing the YouTube channel. Now I share other senior stories too. Stories of surviving war, enduring poverty, overcoming discrimination. I believe our generation's stories must be recorded, so future generations can know how hard we worked to survive. Sometimes people ask if I have regrets. If I could go back to that time, wouldn't I choose differently? I answer, no regrets. Even if I went back, I'd give birth to my child again, and I'd endure again, because all that suffering made me who I am today. Every night my granddaughter texts me, asking how my day was, saying she loves me Each time, I think my life wasn't lived in vain. Yesterday, Jun-ho asked if I was happy. I smiled and answered, yes, now I'm happy, truly happy. Life was a long journey. Sometimes I walked through storms. Sometimes I lost my way in darkness. But I never stopped. One step at a time, I kept walking. Looking back from near the journey's end, I see it all had meaning. My name is Jung Mi-ja, a woman who abandoned her name and reclaimed it. A woman who survived. This is my story.